Somewhere between the day you just lived and the sleep waiting to take you, there is a frequency. You won't find it on any dial. It doesn't broadcast on a schedule. It comes when the hour is late and the lights are low, and you are ready to go somewhere without leaving where you are. This is the midnight frequency. What follows are radio dramas, some set in the smoky, rain-soaked world of the old golden age, where private detectives walked dark streets and every shadow had a secret. Some take place closer to now, some venture further out, into times and places that haven't happened yet. All of them are original stories, written in the spirit of the programs that once kept the whole country listening in the dark. From this moment forward, there are no interruptions, no commercials, nothing to pull you back. If you found something here worth returning to, we'd be grateful for your support. The details are in the show notes, but that's for later. Right now, there is only the story. Get comfortable. Let it come.
You're listening to The Midnight Frequency. I'm Bill. Radio operators have a piece of folklore they don't like to talk about in daylight. It's called the long-delayed echo. You send a signal, and it comes back to you. Not the ordinary echo, the round-the-world hop that returns in a seventh of a second. These are echoes that come back late. 2 seconds. 8 seconds. In a few documented cases, minutes. Nobody has ever explained them. Not ionospheric ducting, not moon bounce, not plasma clouds parked out past the magnetosphere. The signals go out, and something holds them, and then something lets them go. Tonight's story is about a woman who spent 37 years waiting for a signal to come back. She just didn't know she was the one holding it. This is return traffic. Nora Reyes was 15 years old in October of 1989, and she had held her novice license for exactly 4 months. Her station was a hand-me-down transceiver on a desk in the corner of a garage in Fort Bragg, California, with an antenna her uncle had strung between the chimney and a bishop pine, and a logbook she kept in pencil because she was afraid of committing mistakes in ink. On the night of October the 11th, a storm came ashore that the fishing fleet had been promised would stay out at sea. Nora was on 80 meters, listening more than transmitting, the way novices do, when she heard a man's voice come up through the static, like something surfacing. He said his vessel was the Rosalind. He said they were 9 miles off Cape Mendocino, taking water over the transom faster than the pumps could clear it, 5 souls aboard, and that his marine radio had failed, and he was transmitting on a ham rig his brother-in-law had bolted into the wheelhouse years ago, and that he did not fully know how to use. He said he had been calling for 20 minutes. He said, and Nora would remember the exact words for the rest of her life, "Is there anybody at all?" Nora keyed her microphone and said, "I hear you." She was 15. She knew the theory of emergency traffic the way you know the theory of swimming from a book. The Coast Guard station that needed to hear this couldn't, because the same skip conditions that carried the Rosalind signal into her garage carried it clean over the heads of everyone official. She was, as far as the night was concerned, the only link. And she froze. Her hand was shaking so hard the microphone tapped against the desk, and it transmitted that, the tapping, her breath, the start of a sentence she couldn't finish. That was when the woman came on frequency. The voice was low and even and completely unhurried, the way a voice sounds when it has already been through the thing you are only now entering. She said, "Station handling the Rosalind, this is going to go fine. Write down what I say and send it exactly. You are going to be a relay, that's all. A relay is just a person who repeats things. You can repeat things." And Nora, because she was 15 and terrified, and the voice left no room for any other outcome, wrote down what the woman said and sent it exactly. The woman knew things. She knew the Coast Guard working frequency for that stretch of coast and the exact form of a mayday relay, the cadence of it, the order the information goes in so that the person receiving can write it without asking you to repeat. She knew the Rosalind, or seemed to. She told Nora to tell the skipper to quarter the swell instead of running before it, and to steer for the lee of the Cape, where the seas would drop by half. And when the skipper's voice started to fray, she gave Nora, word for word, the sentence that stitched him back together. Tell him the boat has done this before, even if he hasn't. Tell him boats remember. For 2 hours, Nora repeated things. The Coast Guard cutter reached the Rosalind at 1:51 in the morning in the partial shelter of the Cape, exactly where the woman had put her. 5 men came off that boat, and all 5 of them grew old. When it was over, when the cutter's radio man said traffic complete and thank you to the young lady on the relay, Nora keyed up one more time and asked the woman for her call sign. The frequency hissed. The storm walked off north. The woman was gone. And here is the thing that Nora didn't learn until later. The thing that bent the whole night into a question mark. The Coast Guard's logs, which recorded every transmission of the incident, contained the Rosalind, the cutter, and one novice station in Fort Bragg. No woman. The skipper, interviewed afterward, remembered being talked in by a teenage girl whose voice shook at first and then didn't. He never heard any woman. Nobody heard the woman except Nora, on a frequency where, by definition, everyone hears everything. You can build a life on top of a question like that. Nora did. She kept her license when other interests came and went. She became a marine radio operator, then an engineer who maintained coastal stations up and down the Pacific, remote sites on headlands where the fog comes in like a tide. She raised a daughter. She buried her father, who died of his heart in the spring after the Rosalind, in March of 1990, with no warning at all. And she carried that, the way you carry the things that give no warning. And quietly, for 37 years, she looked for the woman. She wrote to clubs. She listened to archived recordings and net tapes, hunting for the voice, because she would know the voice. She could recite the whole night. That was the strange part, she told people, the 2 or 3 times she ever told the story all the way through. Other memories from being 15 had worn smooth like sea glass. That night stayed sharp-edged and complete, every sentence in order, as if some part of her had decided it would be needed later and had refused to let a word of it go. In 2026, Nora was 52, and she had come back to Fort Bragg, to a house not far from the garage, with a proper station now and a doublet up high between 2 firs, and she had developed, in her retirement, an obsession that her radio friends found charmingly crackpot. Long-delayed echoes. It had started innocently. A CW transmission of hers, a string of test characters, had come back to her one night 11 seconds late, clean, unmistakably her own fist. She logged it. It happened again in the winter, 30 seconds. Then, in the spring, she received a fragment of a voice transmission she had made 3 years earlier. A few sentences from a Sunday net, her own voice arriving like a letter with no postmark. She stopped telling her friends at that point. She bought better recording equipment. She began keeping the station on and logging around the clock, because whatever held signals and let them go was getting slower at letting go, or the signals it was releasing were getting older, and she had begun to suspect that the delay wasn't the point. The delay was a distance. Something out there wasn't echoing her. It was ranging, sounding the years the way you sound a channel. On the night of October the 11th, 2026, a storm came ashore that the forecast had promised would stay out at sea. Nora noticed the date the way you notice an anniversary, with a small private nod. The barometer fell along a curve she half recognized. She made tea. She sat down at the radio the way she did every night, and tuned across 80 meters, and heard, coming up through the static like something surfacing, a man's voice saying that his vessel was the Rosalind. She did not move for the length of one full breath. Then a girl's voice answered, thin and terrified, and said, "I hear you." And Nora heard the tap of a microphone against a desk, and a breath, and the start of a sentence that couldn't finish. And she knew the sentence because it was hers. Understand what she understood, in the order she understood it. First, that this was not a recording, because the girl was responding live to a skipper who was responding to her. It was the night itself, all of it, arriving 37 years late, the way her own test transmissions had arrived 11 seconds late, whatever held signals having held this one for half a lifetime. Second, that the girl on frequency was about to fail. She could hear it. She had been that failure from the inside, and now she could hear it from the outside. A child alone in a garage with 5 lives coming down the wire at her. And third, arriving not as a thought, but as a kind of vertigo, that she had spent 37 years unable to forget a single sentence of what the woman said that night, and that there had only ever been one person on earth who knew those sentences. Nora keyed her microphone, and she said, in a voice low and even and completely unhurried, because she had been rehearsing it since 1989, "Station handling the Rosalind, this is going to go fine. I want to be careful here, because this is the part of the story where it would be easy to say something false. It would be easy to say she chose the words. She did not experience it as choosing. She experienced it as finally arriving at the front of a queue she had been standing in all her life. Every sentence was already in her, placed there at 15, kept sharp for 37 years by a memory that had refused, alone among all her memories, to fade. She knew the Coast Guard frequency because she had spent a career on that coast. She knew to quarter the swell and run for the lee of the Cape because she had studied the Rosalind incident for decades, had read the cutter's report so many times she could see the coffee ring on the first page. She knew that boats remember because she had heard it at 15 from her own mouth, and had waited her whole life to find out whose sentence it was. And the answer was that it was nobody's. It had no author. It had only a root. She talked the girl through it. She talked herself through it. 2 hours, the cutter, the lee of the Cape, 5 men into the rest of their lives. She heard her own young voice steady itself in exactly the places she remembered it steadying, and she understood now that the calm she had marveled at all these years, the woman's supernatural calm, was not wisdom. It was rehearsal. The woman had never been calm. The woman had simply already been through it, because the woman was the girl, later, holding the other end. And then, near the end, Nora did the thing that makes this a story instead of a diagram. Her father was alive that night in 1989. He was asleep 2 rooms away from the girl on the frequency, 5 months from a March morning, and a heart that gave no warning. And Nora, 52 years old, keyed the microphone with the traffic nearly complete, and said, "One more thing. In the spring, make your dad see a doctor. Tell him it's his heart. Make him go." She said it clearly. She said it twice. And she knew, even as she said it, what the answer would be, because she had the answer already. She had the whole night, sharp-edged and complete, every sentence in order, and there was no such sentence in it. The girl in the garage in 1989 responded to the last thing Nora remembered the woman saying, and not to this, not with a yes, not with a what, not with anything. The new words went out into the same night as all the others, and the night declined them. Not refused. Declined. The way water declines a shape you try to press into it. The loop was not a channel. You could not send anything down it that it did not already carry. It was one signal, whole and finished, before either end of it spoke, and the two of them, The girl and the woman were not talking to each other. They were performing it. They had always been performing it. She sat with that for a long time after the frequency went quiet. Here is where she came out, and you can follow her there or not. 5 men were alive. They were alive because a voice with no author had crossed 37 years to steady a child's hands, and the crossing had required the child to become the voice. And she had. Every hour of the career, every archived tape, every rereading of the Cutter's report, all of it had felt like a search and had actually been an apprenticeship. If nothing about that night could be changed, then nothing about it could be lost either. Her failure had never been possible. Neither had her father's rescue. The loop carried exactly what it carried, 5 lives and not 6, and it had chosen nothing, and neither, in any sense that survived the evidence, had she. And still, she had heard the fear go out of her own young voice, and she had been, both times, on both ends, the one who took it away. If that isn't a choice, it is at least a shape a person can be proud of making, standing wave or not. Before she shut the station down that night, Nora sent one last transmission. Not to the girl. The girl was gone, 37 years gone, already growing into her. This one she addressed to the frequency itself, to whatever holds signals and lets them go. And she kept it in the proper form, because form had saved 5 lives once, and you respect the things that work. She said, "This is the station handling the Rosalind. All traffic delivered. Return traffic complete." Then she turned off the light and let the antenna hold up the dark. That's return traffic. I keep thinking about the fact that the words had no author. The girl learned them from the woman, and the woman learned them from the girl. And if you walk the circle looking for the place where somebody composed them, you go around forever. We like to believe every message starts somewhere, that behind every voice there's a first draft. But every operator knows the truth is looser than that. Some traffic just gets handled. It comes to you, and your only job is to send it exactly. And where it came from is a question the frequency keeps to itself. Whatever you've been holding, it's late. Let it go out. You've been listening to The Midnight Frequency. I'm Bill. Good night.
This has been The Midnight Frequency. The studio goes dark now. Sleep well.